We're talking college football playoff, the Rose Bowl between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Michigan Wolverines on New Year's Day, January the 1st, a 5 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff on ESPN. This game, of course, being played at the Rose Bowl in beautiful Pasadena, California. You look at the Vegas spread in this one, guys. Michigan currently sits as a 1.5-point favorite in this game. The over-under sitting at 44.5. And as you look at this ball game, guys, we move into our top storylines. I mentioned this a few weeks back, and this has nothing necessarily to do with the game, but what I think is a really fun storyline is it feels like, for different reasons, right, a pair of evil empires facing off, right? For the college football fan that's not a fan of either Alabama or Michigan, you really have to make the decision of, okay, who do I hate less? Who do I hate less? Because on one hand, you have Alabama and Nick Saban. And is it fair that people hate Alabama? Maybe, maybe not. That's up for you to decide. But some people just hate Bama because it's like hating the New York Yankees, right? They win all the time. They're so good. And that makes you hate them. It's like hating the New England Patriots when Tom Brady was the quarterback. A lot of people just have Alabama and Nick Saban fatigue. And I totally get that. So on one hand, you got this evil empire led by Lord Nick Saban that is the Alabama Crimson Tide. On the other side, though, you've got this whole Connor Stallions thing and the cheating scandal and Jim Harbaugh suspended for half of the season. And, many people thought that maybe Michigan shouldn't be in the college football playoff because of, some moral code or some ethics code or whatever it might be. Like it should have been questioned. Should Michigan have actually gotten in? So it's like, you got to pick a side in this one because they can't both lose, right? So I think that's really fascinating. I think that's interesting. I think this is a pair of teams who are disliked for their own reasons. And I think it's kind of funny that the casual watcher, a lot of folks have to decide on game day, okay, which of these two teams do I dislike less? All right, that's who I'm going to pull for. So it's really interesting for both these programs. Of course, guys, you get two historical programs like this. Like, this is a helmet game, right? When you cut that TV on New Year's Day and you see that Alabama helmet, and you see that Michigan helmet, and you see the backdrop of the Rose Bowl. I mean, guys, it's I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Like, it's going to be one of the most magical settings. Like, when you think of college football, the words college football, and you look that up in the dictionary, I think you see a game like this. Like this is what you envision. And again, so many great storylines in this one. On the field we go, though, guys. I think the big question for me is which version of Alabama shows up, right? The one thing that Bama was not this season was consistent. At their best, Alabama's good enough to beat anybody, as we saw in that game against Georgia. But at their worst, or nearly their worst, they're bad enough to almost lose to an Auburn team that got blasted by New Mexico State. And I know the transitive property does not work in college football, but still, you can't look at that and not just wonder, okay, we know what this Alabama team is capable of, but which version of Alabama is going to show up in this football game? Because obviously, guys, taking on the Michigan Wolverines, I know their schedule's been soft, but they did beat Ohio State, who was actually my pick to win the national championship over the summer. So, Michigan, one of the elites of the sport. Alabama's going to have to put their best foot forward, play their best football, and that best version of Alabama will have to show up in order to win this football game. So, again, Alabama, extra time to get ready. Does that help in the efforts? But which version do we get of the Alabama Crimson Tide? Even like with the offensive line, right? Down the stretch, the offensive line was much better. Early in the season, it was atrocious. Do we see those trends continue? Sometimes time off can help. Sometimes, though, guys, it can hurt, and you can revert back to old trends and old ways of doing things. We've seen that time and time again. Will be really interesting to see for Alabama which version of them we get. Guys, I just mentioned it too, the extra time. That's certainly something in these games when you have, you go from playing every single week practically for 13 weeks or 14 weeks if you got a title game. Then you get a month off. That can help some teams. That can throw some teams out of a groove or out of a rhythm. Does the extra time to prepare help Nick Saban and the Alabama Crimson Tide? Because certainly we've seen it before, guys. Nick Saban with extra time to get ready, bet against him and bet against Alabama at your own risk. And like I mentioned, I think there are some issues. I think there are some concerns that happened during the regular season that both Alabama and Michigan can shore some things up. And, they're going to have extra time to watch film, prepare, rest their guys, by the way, which is huge. I know Alabama near the end of the season, they were banged up, dealing with injuries, dealing with different issues. So having that extra time certainly is going to help them tremendously to get their best 22 on the field. And then same thing for Michigan as well, guys. I mean, plenty of guys, you may not be injured, but a lot of guys play hurt. So having time to rest up, to lick your wounds, what have you, it is of great value. But we've seen Nick Saban and Bama in this spot before, guys. And, even if you don't think Alabama's the better team than Michigan on paper, Alabama under Nick Saban with extra time to get ready. Again, bet against them at your own peril. Guys, can Alabama protect Jalen Milroe? That's a big question for me. The offensive line was hit or miss this season, and it was miss a lot. I think Jalen Milroe, his running ability, them allowing him to scramble more and use his legs and catering the offense to his ability, I think that certainly helped them down the stretch. I thought Alabama's offensive line was really, really good in that game against Georgia, who's obviously one of the best defensive fronts in all of college football. But Michigan's got their own front seven that's one of the best in the sport as well. And it's going to be a challenge, no doubt. I mean, again, Jalen Milroe, I think, is going to have to be crafty in the pocket. Alabama's going to have one of their best games up front that they've had all season. But certainly, as you look at the numbers, they're not favorable. But again, you have to factor in how much better Bama's offensive front was, how much better they were in the trenches over the last month or so of the season. But again, they'll need to be good yet again, giving Jalen Milroe time to operate in the pocket, to make plays. And of course, Jalen Milroe, guys, has to be able to do what he did against Georgia, getting outside of the pocket, making plays with his legs, extending plays. The beautiful thing for Alabama about Jalen Milroe in number 4 is this. The moment he steps on the field, he's the best athlete on the field. So we'll see if Michigan has anyone that can keep up with him. Do they put a spy on him? We've seen that work against Alabama. We shall see. But again, Bama's got to be able to protect their quarterback, give him time to operate to get that offense going in this game against an elite Michigan defense. Now, switching sides of the football, switching teams, if you will. When you look at Michigan offensively, guys, it all starts with their fantastic running back in Blake Corum. He's a physical specimen. He runs with a bad attitude, which is one of the best compliments you can give a running back, by the way. But Blake Corum is really what opens things up for this offense. And again, Michigan's been elite defensively. But if they're going to beat Alabama, they've got to take it to another level, I think, offensively. They got to do a little bit more than what they've done. And a lot of that's going to fall on J.J. McCarthy, which is my next point here in my notes. This is J.J. McCarthy's opportunity to prove that he's a dude, that he is going to flourish in a game like this, a moment like this. Because again, guys, you look at that game even against Ohio State, like he was good, he was solid, but as he had that moment where it's like, man, J.J. McCarthy took over that football game. He made the big throw when he had to. You got to get the running game going with Blake Corum. That's how Michigan operates. That's what they want to lean on. That's what they want to establish. But guys, Michigan ain't going to win this football game if J.J. McCarthy doesn't make some throws. Bottom line, that's it. They're not going to win this football game if J.J. McCarthy and this Michigan offense is conservative and they're dinking and dunking and they're just trying to lean on run game. You're going to have to take some shots in this football game because I just don't think Michigan is going to line up and bully Alabama for 60 minutes, right? That's just not going to happen. That's what they've done a lot this season. I think you're going to have to take more risks. You're going to have to do things on offense maybe you have not done to this point because I think Alabama is going to score, right? We know how good Jalen Milroe is with the deep passing attack, the deep ball. That's his best ball, you could argue. I think there's going to be explosive plays in this football game. Can J.J. McCarthy lead this Michigan offense and go toe-to-toe and go blow for blow with what Alabama will do on the offensive side? Guys, my final storyline in this game, something I found interesting in my research, it ain't over till it's over. And speaking specifically on Alabama, get this, guys. Bama has trailed 5 times. They trailed 5 times this season in the second half of SEC games, and they rallied to win all 5 of them. So even if Michigan's ahead by a touchdown or so, we're going to the fourth quarter, like the game is far from over. It's far from over. That's honestly, I think, the position that Bama, I don't think they prefer to be in, but they're going to be comfortable in that position. They're not going to care because they've done it all year. They've come back all year. Granted, against better competition like a Michigan, and as the games, the situations, they become more pivotal. They're more pressure packed. You don't want to put yourself in those type of scenarios. But all I'm saying is this, that even if Michigan jumps out to a lead or Alabama kind of stumbles out the gate, whatever it is, stick around because Alabama has played from behind all year. They found ways to win. So it'll be interesting to see. It's going to be like a pair of heavyweight fighters going at it in this one, guys. Who can deliver that knockout blow late in this game? Going to be a lot of fun to watch, which again leads me to my prediction, guys. Michigan, the 1.5-point favorite. As I mentioned, Vegas expecting a little bit of a lower scoring game, but I think you look at the defenses and you look at the moment, you look at a game like this. I think Texas, Washington, not looking too far to head to our prediction next week or projections for that game next week. I think that one of the two college football playoff games could be a higher scoring game. I think this one, you look at it, most folks think that defense is going to rule the day. I will say this, while a lot of people were upset, rightfully so, about the Florida State thing, this is as competitive a college football playoff field as we have ever had. Like, there's no result that would surprise me. Any of the four teams in it could win the national title, including these two who will play at the Rose Bowl. Michigan, guys, I think, listen, despite all the off-field stuff, despite the Connor Stallion stuff, and it's really, really easy to poke and prod and make fun, and whether you think they should be there or not, or whether you think the NCAA should have taken more strenuous action, hey, that's your opinion, and I totally understand where you're coming from. That being said, Michigan's a damn good football team. Like, let's not kid ourselves. It ain't because Connor Stallions. It ain't because they're cheating. It ain't because of this or that. Michigan's a damn good football team across the board. They're legitimate in the trenches. Blake Corum is one of the best, if not the best running back in college football. J.J. McCarthy is great in that offense and makes plays when they need him to. That defense is relentless, and they will get after Alabama. So make no mistake, Michigan deserves to be in this football game, and they're going to give Alabama all they want and more. On the Alabama side, again, guys, for me, it's just about which version of Bama do we get? Do we get the best possible version? Because we saw Alabama against Auburn in the regular season finale, and I know that's the Iron Bowl. I get it. Weird things happen. But we saw them in the Iron Bowl, and then we saw them against Georgia. Granted, let's call it for what it is now. Let's be fair. A Georgia team that had a banged-up Lad McConkey and a banged-up Brock Bowers, right? Let's be real about that. Still found a way to get the win. Guys, I have doubted Alabama and Nick Saban at every turn this season. Starting in the summer, picked them to go 9-3. I picked the loss against Texas. Granted, I nailed that one. But I picked them to lose to Texas A&M. I picked them to lose to LSU. And I picked them to lose to Georgia in the SEC championship game. So I've doubted Alabama at every single turn. I think Michigan, guys, is good enough to beat Alabama. I think they've got the team. It will not surprise me at all if Michigan beats the Crimson Tide. But you're giving Alabama a month to get ready. You are giving Nick Saban a month to prepare. And Alabama, guys, as crazy as it sounds, because they're Alabama, the expectations every year are to win a national championship. Doesn't it feel like Bama is playing with nothing to lose? Doesn't it feel like Bama's playing with house money in this one? Like, nobody expected them to be in this situation anyways right after that Texas loss. Nobody expected Bama to be in a game like this or have an opportunity to go to the national title. So if they lose, I mean, certainly it's going to be disappointing. I'm not saying it's not, but it feels like Alabama, as an underdog, literally as the underdog in this football game, is playing with house money as much as they ever have before. That being said, guys, like I mentioned, starting in the summer, I doubted this 2023 Alabama football team and Nick Saban at every single turn. And I gotten burned on multiple occasions. I'm not doing that again. I think with extra time to get ready, I think with time to heal up, right? They're resting some guys that were banged up or limited. They're going to have them healthy, ready to go. I think this is a great back and forth football game, guys. I think this game lives up to the hype. I think it lives up to the billing. Like I said earlier, guys, this is a game that gives you goosebumps. It's a helmet game. It's two traditional programs in Alabama, Michigan at the Rose Bowl. No better setting in college football. This is what we all wanted, right? This is the game that when you look up college football in the dictionary, you see a game like this. That being said, I think it is Alabama that comes out on top. I've gone against the Crimson Tide way too many times this season and gotten burned each and every single time. I will not do that again. I will not doubt Nick Saban with extra time to prepare. I think you will see the best version of Jalen Milroe. I think you'll see the best version of this Alabama football team, and I think that will be good enough to take down the Michigan Wolverines. And guys, dare I say, karma's a real thing. You can only escape the football gods and escape karma for so long. I think Michigan's going to feel some karma because, hey, let's face it, they cheated. They did. They cheated, and they got caught. So I think Alabama is the team to make Michigan pay for their wrongdoing. Nick Saban, Alabama, extra time to prepare. They get the win. Lock me in. Give me Crimson Tide 28, Michigan 24.